Welcome back, my YouTubers. I know it's been a long time and I apologise for that, but I've been busy having fun in my van. It's only part built, but there's enough built in it for me to be able to enjoy myself, as you can see in this video. A few little tricks I've been trying. But this video is all about the pipe system. And one of the first things I recommend is that you get one of these pipe clippers, a guillotine type clipper system. Without these, you will not be able to do the job properly. Hi and welcome back. So this video, as I say, is all about the pipes. But in my van, we've got two tanks, two 75 litre tanks. Now, you're not necessarily going to have two 75 litre tanks in your van, nor are you going to have two separate systems whereby you have a hot water system with its own pump and you have a cold water system with its own pump. Chances are you're not going to have that, but given the fact that I bought this diesel heater that actually heats the water up, I kind of had to make up a heating system that would accommodate for this heater. Also, the beauty about having two large tanks is that one of the tanks can act as a storage heater, a bit like in a house. Because of the diesel heater I've bought, it wants to produce hot water and hot air at the same time. It's very efficient at doing both. It doesn't favour one over the other. So basically, this system is good to harness the hot water when I've got the hot air on. Basically, I can keep the hot water topped up. So I thought it'd be good to have a big tank, because at the end of the day, when you think about it, you want to wash your hands, hot water is more favourable. If you want to get a shower, you need hot water. If you want to wash the pots, you need hot water. It's seldom you're going to use cold water. So I've rigged my system up with a big hot water tank and a big cold water tank, just purely for storage and cold water. But if I want to top that hot water tank up, I've plumbed the cold water tank into the hot water tank, so I can just turn a nozzle and the water will be taken from the cold water and top up the hot water, because I believe I'll be using more hot water than cold water, especially in the UK, because it's pretty cold around here. Now, I don't want to digress into the tank system, because this is all about the pipe system and the plumbing. The tank system is another video that's coming up, and I will explain all why how I've built it and why I've built it. But in this video, like I say, it's about the plumbing. So let's get started on that. Basically, most people in this country, anyway, the UK, generally favour John Guest parts and connectors, pipe connectors. But a lot of conversions and a lot of motorhomes, especially the motorhome companies, they all use the smaller 9mm or 12mm gauge piping. But I found that to be quite hard to source during the COVID outbreak. Basically, everything you was having to get online. I couldn't get to the local shops. The local caravan suppliers were all closed. So there was nothing available in your general local DIY store, tool stations and places like that. Nothing was available. So I decided to use the speed fit connectors, basically, which are made by John Guest, but they're more for domestic, more for houses, not for the smaller scale down versions for drinks machines and other commercial use, pubs and all that kind of stuff. The 15mm speed fit connectors are readily available. You can get them absolutely everywhere in any hardware store, your local B&Q. If you're not in the UK, then you might not know what that is. But all the general national hardware stores, they're very easy to source. But they always come generally in 15mm, because house plumbing is 15mm. Now basically the sink taps and the shower and the little shower, all that stuff is all 15mm threads. So this is actually ideal, and it doesn't really matter what you use because the pump is a 30 psi pump and it will make the taps turn on just like a domestic tap in your house, the same sort of power, no problem at all. But also there's lots of other parts that you need to know about as well, because people tend to think if you buy John Guest fittings you got to have the John Guest pipes. Now that isn't true at all, because it's all standardized, especially with the 15mm. You can basically get a whale pipe and put it in a John Guest fitting or an unknown pipe. So long as it's 15mm exterior diameter, then basically it will fit. And this is the thing that people are not aware of, and this is what I want people to be aware of. Okay, so let me explain further what I mean by you don't have to use John Guest parts. Now basically I'm using John Guest speed fit connectors like this, but these pipes here, the red and the blue one, this is a whale pipe and this one is a completely unknown pipe, both off the internet. Now the reason why I plumbed for these two was because I had to buy a full reel of John Guest piping. I don't know if that was just a thing through the COVID period and they were selling a lot because there was a lot of conversions on, I don't know. But what I do know is they wanted to charge me like £100 a reel. That would have been £200 altogether to buy the red and the blue, when I only needed 5 meters of this and 5 meters of this. So I went on the internet and sourced some cheaper pipes. Now, so long as the 15mm, which these are, on the outer diameter, looking inside, I don't know if you can see there, it probably can't see in the camera, but this pipe is actually a little bit wider inside, probably by about 1 mil, and this pipe's a little bit smaller, but they're both 15mm on the outside. Now there's only one disadvantage I can think of using the 15mm, and that is because the pipes are going to hold a lot more water in your system. But you know, I've built my system to just be all at the front of the van, so there's not that much water in there. So eventually what I'll do is I'll take you, after this explanation, I'll take you to the van and I'll show you the whole system fitted. Now I don't have all the parts here to show you, for the simple reason being I've already fitted everything in the van. So this isn't about showing you all the different parts, this is just explaining that you can use different parts and you can use 15mm, because obviously domestic plumbing is 15mm and everything in my van are domestic appliances, literally what you would buy for your house. Now, one of the reasons why I said you need to buy one of these pipe clippers, these guillotine type pipe clippers, is because you need to do a square edge on the pipe. Now I've tried to do it with a Stanley knife or a snap-off knife and it ends up all over the place, and these pipes are a lot stronger than you think. It's not that easy to cut through, and it's quite dangerous when it suddenly does break through and you nearly cut your leg off or your finger off or your hand. So basically these are really safe and they give you a perfect clean edge. Now that's quite important for when you insert. Now this connector has been taken apart slightly, and when you insert into it there's a flange at the bottom and it's flush, and you need it to go flush with that if you're not going to put a pipe insert into it. But I must recommend that you do put a pipe insert into it always, but people don't, but you should. But the other thing I'm going to recommend, because these pipes, if you're copying off me and you don't get the John Guest pipes and you get an unknown pipe, these pipes, you just don't know if the fit is absolutely perfect. So basically, if you get the Super Seal insert like this, then it has O-rings around it here and here, and it guarantees you a seal. So what I want to do now is I just want to show you how these connectors, so this is the connector, what it should look like on the outside, and this is when you take this off, which by the way, don't ever try and take this off because I've had to break it really to get it off. These are not meant to come off at all. I've taken it off, and what you've got is an O-ring that sits in there basically, and then is all you have is this that sits in there, and then you have this section here, this outer ring that goes over the top of there, which just exposes this like that. You can see it. So basically what happens is, let's get this out. Basically you put your insert in. Now that went in really easy because this one is bigger than this blue one. So that went in easy. I don't know if you can see, but you can just see the blue line, the O-ring there, and that's creating a seal there to stop it leaking here. And this is creating a seal to stop it leaking in that, near that flange that I was telling you about. So it's a super seal. It's 2 sure points of super sealing, and it can't come out. Now I've actually done about 5 trips in my van now, and I've had the pressure pumps on and off all the time, and there's been no leaks whatsoever. It's been absolutely perfect. In fact, the only leak I have had is in my water tank, because when I originally commissioned the heating system up, I actually thought I did have a leak because I found a pool on the floor, and it turned out it was this, what was the leak basically. But anyway, that all got sorted out, so on with this. So basically you can see what happens here. That fits into there like that. So now you can see everything, all the components fit together properly in the connector. And what would happen is you cut your pipe, you put the super seal in, and I do recommend the super seal because you're in a vehicle that's moving and wobbling and shaking about. So the super seal to me is an absolute must. And then basically that just slots into here like that. And what you do is you just push it till you hear it click like that. And then what you can do, I don't know if it's with the other John Guest parts, but certainly with these 15mm ones, the Speed Fit domestic versions, is you can then turn this so that it's tight, and that then locks it in good and proper basically. Now with this whale pipe, it's the inner part, the inner diameter is a little bit smaller for this particular whale pipe, and getting the super seal into it is hard. It won't do it. So what I suggest you do is you get some boiling hot water if you have a problem like this, and you dip it in basically, and don't leave it for long, just leave it for a few seconds. And then when you take it out, it's obviously lubricated because of the water, and it's soft, and you can then push it in, and a little twist at the same time might be a good idea. There you go. So we'll move that. So I will demonstrate again how easy it is to insert. And actually push it in like that. You let it click. There, I got a click there. And then you tighten and lock. Now if you want to get it out, it is a bit more awkward to get it out with these super seals, I have noticed. But what you need to do is loosen it. Not too far, because if you go too far, you can't push this back. You need to retract this section here. It needs to be retracted, pushed back, and it will allow the grippers with the teeth on it to release like that, basically. So if you can get that like that, and this is going to be really awkward with the camera here in my way. Like that. And that's really hard with that super sealing. But if I do it like that, with no super seal in it or any insert, it comes out dead easy. And that's the problem. That won't pull out now unless I pull this back and release the teeth, and then I can get it out basically. But if you've got the super seal in, it is a whole lot harder, so just be wary of that if you don't cut your pipes the right size. Sometimes when you do it, it leaves the super seal inside like that because it's that grippy, and then you've got problems on. You've got to try and get that out with a pair of pliers, because if you try and take that off, you break it. Right, now we're in the van, I can show you the pipes in situ, basically. Now, I can't show you the parts on the bench like at the beginning of the video, because all the parts are already fitted on the van, because I've made this video after I've fitted it, basically. But I can give you a tour around and show you what's what, and show you what I did and how I did it, and why. So basically, we've got a 75 litre tank here, inside the van, at the front of the van, so it's good for centre of gravity in the van. It's horizontal, so that it gives space at the top for me sink and my sink waste, because sink waste is part of the plumbing you need to think about too. So I've got my sink waste under here, and it drops through and down there. Now this is going to be the hot water tank. The element's not fitted yet, but it will be soon. But for now, I've just got 150 litres of cold water. If I need hot water while I'm just doing a little bit of touring around and using the van semi-finished, I just basically pour a bit of a boiler kettle and pour a bit of hot water in the sink, and that's how we do it. But obviously when the shower's finished, I'm going to need hot water up and running properly. With the hot water tank, it's positioned horizontally so that the majority of the hot water is trapped at the top of the tank. Now, this isn't a normal tank whereby it's permanently always full and it's fed by the cold water feed every time you turn the tap on. I can't do that with my hot water system, so I've got to have a vented tank. So that means the pipework that comes into the side of this tank will be on a flotation device, so it's always at the top of the tank, the feed inside the tank to take the hot water. Now basically, I'm going to quickly go through the appliances I've got fitted in this van. So everything is domestic appliances, and this is what I was saying. Everything I've fitted in here is domestic appliances. Now I've got a nice aquarium tap made in Germany. It's a mixer tap and it lights up basically. So if it's cold, it goes blue. If it's hot, it goes red. I can't do the red because I haven't got the hot water element fitted yet, but you get the general gist of things. If it's red hot and over the top, it will flash red. So it's quite useful. I've found on a night when you're stumbling around in the dark and you just need a bit of water and you turn that on, it actually lights the full sink up, so you don't even need to turn the lights on. Quite handy, I like that. So the next thing is we've got this shower unit, which is basically a standard domestic mixer tap shower unit, and that should be on cold at the moment. So if we turn that on, that works. Now you can see the pressure's really good on that. Pulsating a bit there, so that means the accumulator tank needs to be adjusted. The pressure needs to be adjusted so that it's more smoother. And then I have the outside shower, which is used for washing sinks and everything inside here, washing pots in the sink, and for washing your feet, getting sand off, washing my mountain bike down if it's full of mud, all that kind of stuff. Really handy for having an outside shower. I have a sucker as well that I can stick on the window, and I can take the head off this. Sorry, I can take the head off this, you probably can't see it in this shot, off the main shower, and put it on this shower and stick it on the outside, and then I can have a proper outdoor shower as well, which is really handy when you've come in from swimming in the sea and you just want to get the salt off. Really handy. So the hot water tank is positioned vertically, and that's to make a narrow channel so that when heat rises, when the hot water rises, it's channeled in one area more, because the plumbing on this, because it's a vented tank and it doesn't stay permanently full, basically as the water drops, I'm going to need a pipe that drops down with it. So it's going to be on a flotation device, is the feeder pipe inside this. So as the water goes down, the pipe goes down with it, but it stays at the top of the water always to get the optimum hot temperatured water, basically. Now, if I can just show you down here, so what I've done here, this feed here, it's a blue pipe, so you know it's a cold feed pipe. This basically, let's switch pumps on. This basically has an isolating valve in here, and if I turn it, this isolating valve in here, I don't know if you can hear it, but that now is drawing water, there's not a lot left, into here. So that's going down and this one's going up. Now, so the parts. Now, two of the most common parts you will be using in your push fit connections for this type of plumbing system are the T-junction connections and the elbow connections. These are what you're probably going to buy in packs of 10. Now, I don't have any flexi pipe in this system whatsoever, so all of my plumbing is hard plastic piping and is using these connectors throughout to connect everything together. So here you can see the tailpipes, what come from the mixer taps. Now you're going to need to buy some tailpipes that already have these John Guest fittings on. They're pretty expensive actually. I think they're about 15 quid for a pair, but it's the only way you could really do it without using adapters. So at the back of my shower unit here, these connectors, these are 1/2 inch threads. So you need a 1/2 inch metal connector, metal to metal, plastic to plastic. 1/2 inch metal connector with a 15mm speed fit connector adapter. That's for my shower unit. So here we have a reducer that goes into the tank. Now this tank has been specially made, and I've had a port fitted at the side for the feeder pipe that's on the other side, the floating feeder pipe that will connect to this on the other side. It's quite a deep channel. This is a 3/4 inch female threaded port, and I've got a 3/4 inch reducer with a 15mm push fit connector by John Guest. This is still a John Guest part. You can't get this in plastic, only metal. Now this is where I keep my pumps and my accumulators, and I have two. So I have to say, I am quite impressed with my own little idea of putting these pumps and accumulators under the front seat in the Mercedes, because there's quite a lot of space under there and they can be used for this purpose, because all my plumbing is behind this bulkhead inside the cab, as you can see. So basically here, what we have in one section of the seat mirrors the other section as well, so it's both the same. So we get an inlet pipe coming through a grommet. You must put a grommet when you drill a hole through there, or else it will just cut straight through your pipe. It enters into a filtration system, so if there's any bits in the tank, the filtration system will take that out before it goes into here. Now this is a 30 psi 7 litres per minute show flow pump. They're very, very popular and everybody uses them. This pump has a check. This pump has a check valve in it, so anything that way back into the tank will not go back into the tank. That is the dead point where it cannot flow any further. So here I've fitted an outlet, so if I want to drain the system, that goes along here through the accumulator and into the rest of the system to all the taps and showers. Then basically I can drain all that back through this point here, and it will, I attach a hose to it and it goes through that hole. I think I've got some footage, there you go, from previous. It goes through that hole and I just drain it out of the van. Now this part here is quite important, because with the show flow you get given connectors, but they are, I think, 9mm flexi hose barbed push on connectors, which are no good for the John Guest system. So you've got to buy these adapters. Basically, I wouldn't necessarily call it adapter, it's a connector, and it's a 15mm push fit on one side and it's 1/2 inch thread on the other side. Now because this is a plastic system, you need a plastic connector. Now you're going to need quite a lot of these, because I need 4 here, and then obviously I've got a 2 pump system, so I'm going to need 8, but I'm finding that I'm using them all over the place as well for connecting back of the showers and stuff like that. Now the other important part you need to fit into your plumbing system is an accumulator. Now you don't have to fit one of these, but I completely recommend it for various reasons. One, if it freezes, water expands and it needs to push back into the system, and this allows it to push back into here. But if you don't have it, then there's a good chance your joints will expand and your pipes will burst, or you will get a leak at a joint. So this is important. Now I don't know if your van is just going to be for summer use and you will drain your system, I don't know, but mine's for winter use as well, so this is very important. Okay, so as we said earlier, you're going to need these 15mm tap connectors, speed fit connectors. That's if you're using the 15mm system. Now these threads on here are 1/2 inch threads, so basically you need the 1/2 inch tap connector to go onto it, and then this side is the 15mm. These are a lot more readily available in your local DIY store. If you go for the 12 or 9mm pipe, then you're going to have to start ordering off the internet, or you're going to need a local caravan place that sells caravan accessories. So here I've got the show flow pump. Now I've got the show flow pump because it's a very popular pump, it's very reliable. So this is the reason why I've got it, because I don't want failure. Now, because of my system setup, if I do get failure, I do have 2 pumps. Each, the hot water system and the cold water system, has its own pump on my setup. So theoretically, if one does bugger up, then I will still be able to have running water. But anyway, I didn't want to mess around getting a cheap Chinese thing. So I've got one of these show flow ones. Now I know these are made in Mexico. I think it's an American company, show flow. I'm not sure. But anyway, I've got a reliable pump, that's important, but I haven't got the show flow accumulator. And the reason why I haven't got the show flow accumulator is because that's 70 quid. Not this one, sorry, the show flow one is 70 quid, but this C-flow one, which does exactly the same job, it's a really simple gadget, 20 quid. So basically, I've plumped for that to save myself 40 quid, because I'm buying two, remember, so I'm saving myself 80 quid now. And they both got 1/2 inch connectors as well, so everything's really good. And the other thing is, because I've got a hot water system going through one, unfortunately this only goes up to 55 degrees, but that should be about right for what I'll be getting the tank up to. This goes up to 75. Now if you get the show flow accumulator, that only goes up to 48 degrees C. So it's no good. I want this one as well, is a lot more hard wearing, enduring for hot water. Right, so I'll get these connected on. So don't forget, I mean, it is plastic on plastic, so it may not be an issue, but put yourself a bit of PTFE tape on, just a thin slither, because I don't think you really need it on these plastic threads. But the other thing is, the other tap connectors you can get, with the speed fit connectors, are metal. Now don't get the metal ones, get the plastic ones. Always get the plastic connectors that go with plastic threads. Get the metal connectors, the half metal and half plastic speed fit, for taps or any sort of connection, elbow joint or like that are metal. So metal to metal, plastic to plastic. Make sure you go with the thread, so when you turn it, it doesn't pull it off. It tightens it up. And don't cross it. Just the one turn, that's all. And these just to me need to be tightened up by hand. And not too tight. Ready to go to connect this up. Now the other thing is, this you see on a lot of setups, on a lot of videos, where this is just basically right next to it, but it doesn't have to be. It can be more or less anywhere within the system. It doesn't even have to go right through. You can cap that end off and you can just tee off and have this on, because it's just somewhere for it to expand and go into. Now another very important reason for having an accumulator is because, one, if you've got a leaking tap, I haven't, but if you had a leaking tap, your pump would constantly be kicking in to fill that pressure drop to bring it back up to 30 psi. So that's another reason. But saying that, if you've got a dicky tap, then you should replace it anyway or change the washer on it. But the other reason is, sometimes you just want to have a bit of dripping water like this if you're washing the pots. Now if you've got a pump, then basically that would permanently kicking in. So if I want to just trickle it down a bit just for rinsing a cup or something like that, it doesn't even kick in the pump, because the pressure in the accumulator tank is taking up the slack basically. And then obviously if I turn it on, the pump kicks in. Now the other thing is, the sound of the water is a lot louder than the sound of the pump. In fact, you can hardly hear the pump until I turn it off like that. And the reason for that is because the pump's well away from the living quarters. It's under the seat in the cab. I've got a bulkhead here that'll be insulated and soundproofed. You won't hear anything. It'll be dead silent, just like a tap at home. Also, with these accumulators, you have to get them up to pressure. So basically you have a bicycle type valve, air valve, and you pump them up. Basically, I won't do it now, but you pump them up to equal the pressure. So this is a 30 psi pump, so you need equal pressure, 30 psi in this particular accumulator. Now I have read you're supposed to have a few psi less than the actual pump, but I'm still under experimentation, because at the beginning of the video you notice the shower pulsating, and that's because the pressure's not right in this tank, because these accumulators also iron out that pulsation, and basically it makes the tap run a lot smoother, like a domestic tap at home, as if it was under normal water pressure. So one of the other reasons why I fitted this big tank, a 75 litre hot water tank, into the system is because 2 people can have a shower very comfortably on 75 litres with more to spare. There will be a bit at the bottom that it can never be used because it will be below the matrix, but the vast majority of it, let's say 50 litres, that will be plenty for 2 showers. Because the problem with a lot of modern heaters is you can get 1 shower and then you've got to wait for it to warm up for the next person to have their shower. But in my system, that ain't going to happen. So I think the one thing I haven't covered is the actual shower tap, which is a thermostatic mixer tap, and it's a standard domestic one. I don't want to turn that on because it'll come on and I've got no shower tray down there yet. But anyway, this is the standard mixer shower. Now there may be an issue with the hot water pump coming through there and the cold water pump coming through there, mixing together. They may fight each other, the 2 pumps, so I may have to fit at the back of here in the pipes check valves so that they can't push any pressure back down to the other one to throw it off balance. So that's something I've yet to find out. But if I pan out now, and if I can lean back over the bed a little bit, so here you can basically see all the plumbing in one place now. So we've got the indoor shower, got the sink and tap, we've got the tanks, we've got the heater that heats the tank, the pipes go behind it and into a matrix, and we've got the outdoor shower. Basically all the plumbing is on the bulkhead wall. The whole lot is on the bulkhead wall. Nothing comes in the van. There are no water pipes in the rest of the van. Just a quick mention about these as well. These are the pump switches, which are right next to the sink. So basically, if I come in the van and I want some water, I can just quickly flick that on and there you go. Again, everything is temporary, so this is not very pretty. I'm going to have a really nice chrome one, I think, and I'm going to cut my own holes into it and put some LED type push button switches there. These are just temporary for time being to get everything set up so I can do this video, I suppose. Now these are thermostats. Now basically the top one's going to be for the top of the tank, where there will be a sensor in the top of the tank on the floater pipe, so I know what temperature the water is going to be drawn on. And this will be midway towards the bottom of the tank, so I can tell, because hot water rises, if it's still stone cold down below. Because I do have this switch here which I can turn, and the pump's not on, which I can turn, and it will drop water down into the tank. Just pan out, and it will agitate the water if the water needs agitating, because that means I can heat the water up more. Right, so that pretty much concludes the video for the plumbing. The next video will be about the tanks, and it will be very specific about the tanks, only about the tanks, and it will show you me fitting the matrix and plumbing in the coolant system into the tank, and it being fully operational and up and running, and hot water coming out of the shower and the sink. But for now, I'm going to make myself some food because I'm actually away, and I'm going to sit and enjoy this beautiful scenery, which I'll show you right now. See you soon.